What's going on, everybody? Jackson Fuller here, along with Tanner Barth. Tanner, I'm losing track. I think this is week 5 of our high school football preview show here this spring. Tanner, how you doing? Let's before we jump into week 5, how you doing? And what were some of your biggest takeaways from a week 4 that kind of featured plenty of blowouts and maybe one close call in our area last week in the Mideastern Conference?
Yeah, man, I'm doing good. It's good to be back here on the show and have some great high school football games to look forward to this week. And you mentioned at week 5 already, we're that much closer to the season being over. And you mentioned the blowouts. We had a couple of 42-point games for both New Hanover and then on the other side for Hoggard. But I think as we move forward, we're going to start seeing more and more teams become more competitive down the stretch because it's do or die time for some of these teams if they want to have any shot at playing in the postseason. So I'm excited and ready to get into it here this week.
Yeah, let's dive right in. As well, before we do, I kind of like to give a shout out before we start talking football every week. And I think we got 2 great teams, New Hanover boys soccer. You and I were there last night at Legion Stadium, clinching a spot in the 3A state championship. They'll play Weddington either Friday or Saturday. And then Topsail boys lacrosse, they play tonight, Wednesday. So by the time you guys are watching this Thursday, we'll already know if they're going to play for a state championship this weekend. But they beat West Brunswick in the 3rd round Monday, and they're playing who are they playing tonight? They're playing East Chapel Hill in the East Regional Final. 2 very impressive teams. And, hey, I think Hoggard girls cross country won a state championship, but New Hanover boys soccer, the first team in our area to clinch a state championship appearance in some time.
Yeah, no, I've been impressed by both of them. I've watched Topsail on Monday night and then obviously New Hanover last night, and both teams primed to make a run here. And, New Hanover playing some of the best soccer and pretty dominant in their Final Four win. They look like they were, one of the best teams in the state, no doubt about it.
Yeah, they'll get a chance to prove it this weekend. But all right, let's go into football. We start off every week preview with a little set the lines action, pretending we are the Las Vegas bookies, trying to get what the lines will be for Southeastern North Carolina high school football. Let's start with a big one this week, West Brunswick at Topsail. Both teams have aspirations still of clinching the 3A title in the Mideastern Conference. Topsail, of course, has bigger aspirations of winning the entire league this year. They're still 4-0. West Brunswick's 3-1 with a loss to Hoggard. Games in Hampstead, I see this one being really close. The teams have kind of alternated wins, I think, in the past couple of years. West Brunswick won last year. I'm going to put it at Topsail -3.5 right now. I think – oh, no.
Oh, we're already starting with that, aren't we? We're already starting with us choosing the exact same one.
Let me give my explanation, and then I'll let you kind of see if you want to change it or just show why you support me and my -3.5.
Sounds good.
I think Topsail, I trust their offense a lot more than I trust West Brunswick's right now, just in terms of, Topsail's been putting up 40 points, it feels like, almost every game. I think the defense obviously is the question mark over there. And on the other side, it's the complete opposite. West Brunswick's defense is, I trust them more than I trust the Topsail defense, and I have some questions about the offense. But I think, from what we've seen so far, I just feel like Topsail's going to be able to score 20 points every single game. And I don't know if West Brunswick can get to that 20 mark against Topsail. They were unable to do it last week against North Brunswick. If they can, the Trojans have every opportunity to win this game and put themselves right in the picture for a 3A title or MEC 3A title. But I think the Topsail offense just scores a little too much for West Brunswick's offense. Tanner, what do you see in this one?
Well, as soon as you mentioned 3.5, I was just like, at least great minds think alike. That's one thing we've got going for us. But so I can't do the same one as you. So I'm going to go, I'll go 6 Topsail. Topsail favored by 6 at home. But I agree with you, Jackson. I think, we've seen the ability for this Topsail offense that hasn't really been slowed down yet. And I think one of the big matchups, obviously it's teams, it's just not one player against one player. But I really want to see Carter White against a quarterback like Gavin Ellis, because, that's going to be something where no one's been able to slow down Gavin in the pass game, but also the running game as well. He's been really able to run at ease. So they're going to have Carter kind of spy him, and, what's that matchup going to look like? But I'll go with Topsail -6, and I think it'd be a heck of a football game. Wouldn't be surprised either team comes out with a win in
Yeah, really looking forward to it. It'll be my third trip to Hampstead this week, too, for boys lacrosse and
Same here.
one for
Yep.
football on Friday. So it should be a fun atmosphere, especially with some restrictions continuing to loosen. And I think we might have a 50% capacity crowd there on Friday
Be
night.
good.
Let's move on to the next a team tied with Topsail atop the Mideastern Conference standings. Hoggard, they're on the road in Leland at North Brunswick. The Vikings are 4-0. North Brunswick's 1-2. The Scorpions had every opportunity to kind of pull off an upset over West Brunswick last week, but the Trojans defense stood tall there at the end of the game. I'm going to say Hoggard minus 15.5. I think the Vikings, they're kind of rolling right now. That the ground game is just so dominant, and then they've got two quarterbacks that they trust, Gabe Johnson and Sam Jones. Sam's been getting a little bit more playing time recently, and I think that's it's a good thing for them to have two quarterbacks that are ready to kind of take over whenever they need. But Gabe's been such a good passer all season, very efficient, and the wide receivers have stepped up. I think I don't see any sign of Hoggard really slowing down, and that would, if they were to win this one and Topsail were to win, it would set up a huge game next week between those two teams. But let's not get carried away. What do you think, Hoggard and North Brunswick, Tanner?
I'm going to go 17.5 favored in front of Hoggard. I think I agree with you, Jackson. And coming into the year, we had questions about, what that Hoggard offense was going to look like. We knew their defense was, has always been solid under head coach Craig Underwood, and they were returning some key pieces. But how would they look as an offense? And they proved that they've got a pretty good offense. Doesn't matter if Sam Jones or Gabriel Johnson is in there at quarterback. Both can do it on the ground. They can also throw the rock as well. So I think that's the way I'm leaning right now. But you said this North Brunswick team, they can knock off anybody any given night. It's just if they can get some things going offensively. RJ Green had a big game last week, over 250 yards. But I think Hoggard might be a little bit too much for the Scorpions this week.
Yeah, North Brunswick's defense has played well in every game this season.
Yeah.
But the challenge is going to be playing the Hoggards. So far has proven they've got a pretty consistent offense, other than week one, which was everywhere in the area was low scoring games there. We talk about the kids a lot, rightfully so. They deserve most of the talk on here, but I'd like to, I think Coach Adam Perzitz over at Hoggard deserves a lot of credit for, taking over as the offensive coordinator this year. And right away, you're seeing signs of progress over there on Shipyard. So the Vikings, rolling along right now. I think they win this weekend. If we could have a battle of undefeateds next week, but again, let's not get too carried away, I guess, with that one. Next up, I'm going to go over to Carolina Beach area, New Hanover at Ashley. The Wildcats are 2-2, and talk about an offense that's rolling. I mean, they've scored at least 40 points in their last 3 games. Ashley 0-4. They had a tremendous fight against Topsail last week, led at halftime over the undefeated Pirates, but couldn't quite close the door on that, what would have been a huge upset. I really can't see New Hanover's offense slowing down anytime soon. I'm going to go New Hanover minus 20.5. Raz Chandler, I mean, the guy's incredible. Can he run for 200 yards? Absolutely. It's just a matter of if the Dimmick needs that from him. I think he had 150 yards in the end of the first quarter last week against South Brunswick, and he only had 1 carry the rest of the game. So what do you see in this one, Tanner, New Hanover and Ashley?
I think I agree with the fact that, we've really started to see this New Hanover team come into form. And Ashley, they're a team coming in that, talking to the head coach Wilson Helms just last week, he thought they had a really good shot to go into Hampstead and win that ball game. And they put up a great fight. And Topsail, eventually pulled away there in the fourth quarter. But it was a 1-score game. They had the lead at the half. So I think it'll be a little bit closer. I'm going to go 14.5. I think we'll see that same fight, maybe even more of a fight from the Ashley Screaming Eagles. But I think eventually, New Hanover will pull away, because we said Liam Appler improving. Every week we've seen that kid get better. But when it comes down to it, you need 5 yards. You're handing it to Raz Chandler. And so far, Jackson, outside of the Hoggard game, early in the year, he's proved that no one can stop him, at least at this point in the season.
And even in that Hoggard game, he had some really great moments. He just couldn't bust out for that one big run to set up an easy touchdown. Hoggard did a good job of containing him to 5, 7, 8 yards, but they never gave up that huge outburst. And that ended up being the difference in that game. So finally, the last MEC game of the week, Laney at South Brunswick. The Buccaneers 0-4. The Cougars 1-2, but Laney, the toughest part of their schedule is behind them. I could see them making a run if they were to win this game, but I am going to favor South Brunswick in this one for right now. I think South Brunswick 2.5. I've been impressed with the Cougars defense this year, and I think the South Brunswick won this matchup last year. It was a huge, big program-defining win for head coach Rocky Lewis. I think Roman Dilgard, Danny Parker, Bender Sanderson, that offense does enough. Laney's offense is really struggling right now, but hey, maybe, that was against some really good competition. Maybe they start to turn it around this week against South Brunswick. Still, I'm taking the Cougars -2.5. What do you think, Tanner?
I'm going to go 3.5 for Laney. We'll flip the script a little bit. I think, when you look at both of these teams, I think you look at two teams that are kind of trying to figure out where they are a little bit. We know that this South Brunswick team has a solid defense, but they got a little bit ran over last week against a very good, up-and-coming new Hanover team. So it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. On the other side, I think Laney's going to scratch one across. I think they'll scratch and claw and find a way to get their first win of the season here this week. I'm going to go Buccaneers 3.5.
Be a really good sign for Coach Little to get a win this week and set his team up for hopefully a strong close to the season.
Jackson, before we move on, how I was saying it didn't really seem like Raj Chandler did much against Hoggard. I just looked 23 carries, 131 yards, and a touchdown. But I guess the weeks after that, he had 340 yards, 232, and 183. So.
Yeah, that's just the standards he's setting himself up to now. Is when you rush for 120 yards and one touchdown, it's not quite good enough.
It's just not, yeah.
All right. Well, now we've set the line, so our next two segments that we kind of do here is one big question and one bold prediction. We're gonna start with the biggest question of the week, and I'll go first. And you kind of stole mine earlier in this video, but I didn't want to mention it because I knew we'd come back to it. Who wins the matchup between Carter Wyatt and Gavin Ellis over in Hampstead? Gavin Ellis, a Wake Forest signee, probably going to play tight end or wide receiver or H-back for the Pirates, but he's playing for the Demon Deacons, but he's playing quarterback for the Pirates this year. And Carter Wyatt, he looks like he could be an ACC football player in the future. The junior recently received offers from Duke and Georgia Tech. I mean, that's two of the best football players, not only in this area, but in the entire state, going to line up directly across from each other. And like you said, there's a lot going on any given football play. It's not just one-on-one, but it's going to be really fun to watch those two kind of go at it. And I can't wait to see the first time where they meet each other in the middle of the field and go for a hit or a tackle or a broken tackle. So that's my big question. Who wins that battle? And I think, whichever one of those guys plays the better game Friday could go a long way in determining who wins for their teams. Tanner, what's your big question coming into the week?
I guess my big question of the week is we take a look at South Brunswick and Laney. Both of those teams, one is an up-and-coming program, under Ty Little. On the other side, you've got a guy in Rocky Lewis who's trying to get that program back on the right foot. They had a promising start to the year. I just want to see who's going to come out with that, that sense of urgency, because we do talk about week 5 and we're getting closer to the end of the season. Which team will have that sense of urgency? And which one will we see play the cleaner football game Friday night to maybe right their season a little bit and get them back on track here as we enter the final, I guess, after this week, final 2 weeks of the regular season.
Yeah, and South Brunswick will have 3 more games to get in over 2 weeks.
Yeah, true.
Yep. And you know what? I don't think either of these teams are going to make the playoffs. And, that's unfortunate for the seniors, to kind of already be thinking about next year. But, hey, it's spring football now, getting ready for next year. And I think, both of those teams will have some talent coming back next year. This is every opportunity to start to build momentum for the fall of 2021 when we kind of get back on a normal schedule. Fingers crossed. I think it looks like we're heading that way, but
let's hope so.
All right, Tanner, one bold prediction for this week. I'll go first. I'm literally just stealing your bold prediction from last week. The Hoggard shutout. I think that the Vikings they're absolutely rolling right now defensively. The defensive line, the linebackers, the secondary, all playing in unison, and they're making big plays too. It's not only that they're stout, they're turning the ball over, creating easy possessions for their offense. I think Hoggard's defense posts another shutout this week. Tanner, what's your bold prediction?
All right, so I'm just going – I don't know if this is a bold prediction or just a crazy thought, but I'm going to go so in the final 6 minutes of the game between West Brunswick and Topsail, both teams will have a chance to win the game and be within 1 score at that point. There will be no separation by more than 8 points with under 6 minutes left to go.
One possession.
I don't know if that's one of those weird prop bets.
I don't think we could gamble on that, but I think I like it as a prediction for something for fans to look out for. I think if we could get that, that would be awesome, because we really, New Hanover Hoggard was close. It was kind of weird and not the most exciting of games, but it was close. Otherwise, these, the bigger games that we've had this year haven't exactly been very close. So it would be fun to have a really tight one between those two teams. I've got a bonus prediction that doesn't really involve this week, but I think whoever wins the Laney South Brunswick game, they're going to use it as momentum, win next week as well, go on a little 2-game win streak. And then, hey, if you win 2 games, why not make it 3? I think that whoever wins that game could really, like we talked about, build some momentum, not only for next year, but this season, and go on a little run here at the end of the season. So,
question for you, Jackson. Has Laney has Hoggard and Hanover, have they decided they will not play again this season? It'll be just the 1 game. Okay.
Yeah, they're not going to play again this season.
I know it had been mentioned.
So I know Hoggard is going to play South Brunswick. That would make up that week 1 game. New Hanover doing everything it can to make up that game against North Brunswick. Hasn't been set in stone yet. But I appreciate you bringing that up, because I also would like our viewers to know next week's games. Just as a note, none of those games are going to be on Friday. They're all moving to Thursday, probably a combination of Good Friday and some teams having to fit 3 games in 2 weeks, just get some separation between those. So next week, Thursday, April 1st will be football. So we'll have this video out to you guys a day early, as long as Tanner and I can get our lives together enough to do that.
April Fools.
Yeah, April Fools. All right, Tanner, give me your plug. WWAY, Friday Night Football Show. What can you tell the watchers, the viewers, to see you and where?
Yeah, man, we just got a couple more weeks of the high school football season left to go. We're in week 5, as Jackson said. You can tune in every Friday night around that 11:15 mark for the 5th quarter on WWAY News. And, we'll bring you the best highlights and analysis that TV has to offer here in Southeast North Carolina. And you can also check us out on Twitter, WWAY Sports, and @Tanner_Barth. And hope you keep following with us, not only for football, but for all sports. Our teams have done a great job battling through this pandemic. And couple more months to go, Jackson. We got this. You got to keep that head above the water. A lot of sports going on.
I think once we get past boys lacrosse and boys soccer, it'll become a little bit more normal. If maybe, who knows? But baseball's right around the corner. I know softball and girls soccer started soon, or recently. So yeah, we got just a couple more months left. It's kind of crazy. It feels like just yesterday we got started with volleyball and cross country season, but we're kind of wrapping up the high school sports calendar year. And as always, everybody at StarNewsVarsity on Twitter and Facebook, starnewsonline.com/sports. We got all your coverage from Friday night and moving forward in this high school football season, and plenty of state championship coverage this weekend from New Hanover boys soccer and maybe Topsail lacrosse. Check back in on our website Thursday to see if the Pirates are playing for a state title. So, Tanner, thank you again for joining me. Happy to do this as always. Look forward to an exciting week 5, and we'll see you guys for week 6 preview next week.